so busy, I guess it's hard to, you don't have much free time just to think about stuff.
Yeah. Fucking, yeah, dude, what was I just thinking about as a cool idea? Oh, yeah. Like, that's fucking, that would be a cool way to look at, like, just look at all of these different, things in the world, I guess, just look at, like, an economy or, like, historical rising and fallings of governments and kingdoms and this and that. They're like, so, like, you see there's, like, this, like, that whole wave-like pattern that works with things in the...
I don't know if that's a real thing, because, like, half the people in the world never even hear when a major world event happens. Like, especially farther back in history. So I don't know how you can draw one line based on, like, the sentiment of the world. I think you'd have to draw as many lines as there are people.
Wait.
That makes sense? Because you were talking about, like, like the kind of the I Ching, back to that thing.
Oh, well, I wasn't really referring to that.
You were just talking about the rise and fall.
Like, I was thinking about, just like how,
things.
like, stuff gets built up and then it kind of falls, and then it gets built up again and it kind of falls, and, but I was trying to think of why I brought that up. Somebody, talking about the argument, where, like, it goes back and forth until someone finally realizes, like, dude, this would never end, so then they let up, and then I guess I was going to draw a parallel or show that as an analogy to the rise and fall of things like historical revolutions and just how the economy works and how fucking waves move through water and how wind works like that, and just all these various things in the world, and showing that it's like that's almost like what happens in people that are arguing, that it goes back and forth until one lets up, can be like the humanistic expression of that. And then we could put it into words by saying, like, it's almost like two opposing forces are always in a struggle, but then after a while one of the forces eventually sees, like, this can go on forever, so then they relax and they're like awakened, they're like, oh god, it's really just a never-ending struggle, so then they sink back, and then that would be the downfall. And then it's chilling out and it's relaxed and it's like, oh yeah, man, I'm looking cool, and then it keeps going along, and then it comes along and sees this force and it's like, hey buddy, what's up? And he's like, oh no dude, fuck you. And then he's like, no man, fuck you. And it goes so it builds back up, and then one of them sees, they're like, oh god, it's just a never-ending struggle, and then they're fucking have this insight, and they're like,
their mind based on the conversation?
Huh?
You don't think anyone's ever won over from a dialogue?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, but then time still goes on until there's another conflict. So, like, even though conclusions can be met at one point of the line,
goes away,
like,
even if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Right?
or like you could say that, like, that would just be like how you showed the asymptotic line and said if you zoomed all the way in, it would still look like this.
Yeah.
Well, like, one definite conclusion where one of the people genuinely wins over the other, like, that can just be seen as zooming up really close on the asymptotic line, because even though a conclusion was genuinely met, time will still go on, and there will eventually be another time when there is a struggle and then one just gives up. So then that would be, I guess, the marker of where the downfall. And then all conclusions met on the uphill are just, or that are genuinely met, are just anticipations of this instance where it would, woo, baby.
Can you pull in on the main sheet?
Here, man, hold this.
Like, pull it tight and then recleat it, just so it's not banging around. I think what's happening is that there's basically no wind, so we're having a hard time picking a direction. Well, that's working better now.
sounds out of tune, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's in need of a tuner.
Don't you have one?
Yep. Sometimes the old ears just ain't good. Yeah, but I want you to go back to what you were saying about how I can't just draw like a one line because of this, and I should draw a line for every person because I need something that I can try to overcome so that this little thing can keep going on. And then later on down in our conversation, I can bring it up. So that we flip-flop
Okay.
back and forth.
Okay, I didn't get the last part of what you said, but what I was saying about, so both the thing you were talked about with Terence McKenna and the I Ching kind of prophecy, I don't know.
Well, yeah, like I don't really, like I'm not too interested in his whole talk of teleology and transcendental objects.
But I was just thinking, because there's this other thing that people on Zero Hedge love, and it's this book called The Fourth Turning. I can't remember who it's by, but it kind of does the same thing where it says that like throughout history there's this cycle of about 80 years where you go through these 4 phases and 4 turnings, and you can like map them out and see where they reach their climax like every 80 years. So they do like the American Revolution, the Civil War, I think World War II. What's 55 plus 80? That'd be 35. So Great Depression, that kind of thing. But I never really liked it because they kind of do. Well, I didn't read the book, so they're
like you're saying that it's too particular of a. Like if you're just looking Western, at, let's say, governments, the rise and fall of governments.
Well, even I don't know that you can
the rise and fall
do
of
anything
this one thing.
Just because you can find like 5 examples of these events spaced out so many years. That doesn't mean anything. It could all be a coincidence, and it's not even that accurate. So I don't see why. I don't think it's very useful for making predictions.
See, I guess I would say that it's useful because like I see it, because like I see what you're saying. Like if you're looking at it through the lens of like through a theoretical model, like if you're trying to take an idea like this and then you look at it and then you're like, okay, how could this be useful for me to use this? Let's say if it were true, because then you could say, oh, well, it could just well be the case that the world is such that all of those things are coincidences. And then let's say the next possible world, like it could have unfolded out in a different way, and really their shapes that they found were a bunch of hugging them rhombuses. They're like, see, look, time moves in a square, or like something like that. But I'm saying that I think that it could be useful because, let's say that if you can use it as like a rational principle to start off from, right? So like, let's say that if you have a vision like that, well, like I don't mean a rational principle as in itself, wait. Hang on. I'm high, so I'm like getting off what I'm trying to say here. Oh, yeah. So, like, let's say that you look back into history, and then you do, in fact, you're like, okay, that's cool. You know, there's this pattern to all things. You know, they could just be coincidences.
But see, I don't even know what the things aren't consistent. I don't know how you say 1933 is the year a thing happened and not 1937.
No. Look. All right. So look. Let's say that we trace back like 10,000 years into history or something. Like you get a rough estimate as to when human history started, right? Well, like let's say that you have that one thing from the start of history to the present day. So this is one big chunk, right?
Okay.
Like I would say that throughout that,
but
like
why even call that a chunk? What was different the year before that and the year before that?
Well, because like we don't have anything historical, meaning like history, meaning the social institution of, I guess, like understanding the extension of itself. Like let's say the human race's ability to look back and.
Don't you think that's on a spectrum though? So it didn't start one day. It's like slowly came in and it's still changing.
Right. All right. So then the same thing. I mean, like that's, like I think that would be a trivial whether or not we used one of, like it's a big chunk or it's something that just gradually came in. Let's just look at whatever history is, right? So then I'm losing my spot. Yeah. So then like let's say like that book you read or like the book that Albert Camus. Oh, okay. Well, that book that you referred to, or let's say Camus' The Rebel, or what Terence McKenna has to say, or like all these other things, or whatever.
What's The Rebel? Should I not distract you right now? I'll ask later.
Yeah,
Keep going.
because I'm high and like I really want to practice talking about ideas that you have systematically enough to where I can explain them, because I feel like sometimes I'm really bad at explaining my ideas, so I'm just trying to use this as a practice field.
Oh yeah, it makes it hard when you're high.
I know. Okay, so anyways, I'm still getting distracted.
So we have this big chunk of history.
So then, like, let's just look at history. You know, whether or not we want to look at it as a finite sector in time, or just something that gradually came in on, let's say, like an asymptotic scale, as it were, right? Like, so anyways, let's just look at what history is, and like, there's all these people that like, and even yourself, if you look at it, like if you just look at, what history has to say, there's all these people that are writing books, pointing out all these patterns like this and that. You have like Terence McKenna with the Time Wave Zero and the I Ching, and you have Hegel looking at the slave master parable throughout history and just how man treats himself. Like there's always some enslavement, and then like there's a revolution. It's the same thing that Camus would talk about, how there's rise and fall of political powers and like social institutions, and this, that, and the other. There's all of these things that we can find in the time stretch of human history that have this little scale, right? So like when I say that we can use that as a rationalistic principle, it's saying that phenomenologically, when we look at the phenomenon of history, we have these facts, these phenomenological facts, right? Like, like it's a phenomenological fact that I take this pick to be in my hand and for it to be blue, right? So then I'm just saying that...
So because like people think they experience it, then it's a real thing?
Wait, no.
Okay.
Like, I'm just saying that, like, human beings, or you and I, or the conscious thing, can look out at the world, and it can see phenomenological facts, being that they take there to be something, and they take that something as something else, this and that. So, like I was just saying, like, I take there to be a pick in my hand, and